I still didn't get what I came for, and it's justice. So the money means absolutely nothing. Like, that don't help me get over the fact of what happened. It doesn't. Breonna doesn't benefit from that. That does nothing for us.
Say her name. 1 year ago today, Louisville police shot and killed 26-year-old Breonna Taylor during a reckless and botched midnight raid. Louisville ultimately settled the Taylor family's wrongful death suit last September for $12 million and banned no-knock warrants. But so far, no one has been directly charged with her death. Yesterday, the city of Minneapolis agreed to a record $27 million settlement for George Floyd's family as jury selection for the Derek Chauvin trial continues. But the question remains, will police themselves ever be held accountable? Joining me now to discuss are two friends of the show, Aaron Haynes, MSNBC contributor and editor-at-large for the 19th, and Midwin Charles, civil trial and criminal defense attorney. Aaron, I want to turn to you because I know you interviewed Mrs. Palmer, Breonna Taylor's mother, for this interview. I have to say, it's really hard watching her talk about this with tears streaming down her cheeks, and people are focused on the money. But how much money is your child's life worth? I'd ask people to consider when we talk about this money. In your conversations with her, what does justice look like for her?
Well, thank you, Tiffany, and thank you for continuing to keep this story at the forefront, because we know that a year ago today, much of the country did not know who Breonna Taylor was or what had happened to her. And a year later, what her mother, Tamika Palmer, told me is that she is still looking for accountability for the officers that took her daughter's life so tragically and violently, on the night of March 13th. Specifically, I asked her directly. You have a new Attorney General, Merrick Garland, who was just sworn in this week, and I asked if she wanted the Justice Department to look into her daughter's case, and she said definitely, without hesitation, because she felt like the, city of Louisville, the state of Kentucky, did not respond to what happened to her daughter in terms of holding those officers accountable. Attorney General Daniel Cameron, his presentation to the grand jury was insufficient as far as she's concerned, and so she continues to push for that accountability, both from a criminal liability standpoint and from other legal avenues. Ben Crump, the family attorney, said that he is absolutely interested in exploring further criminal responsibility for those officers. He says that what happened to Breonna Taylor was a clear violation of her constitutional rights to a reasonable search and seizure. That is not what happened on the night of March 13th.
So do you know if the Biden administration or anyone at the DOJ has been responsive to this request for them to pursue justice on her behalf?
Yeah, well, when I reached out to the Justice Department, they did not immediately respond to me in terms of whether they plan to look into this. But, what we know is that for at least the last administration, that cases like these were not really taken up by the Justice Department. They were, at least in some cases, investigated under the Obama Justice Department in that era when we saw, kind of the Black Lives Matter movement emerging. And so there were families like Breonna Taylor's family who, did seek redress from the Justice Department, and they at least would look into those cases. And so that is what Tamika Palmer is hoping for at the very least, for her daughter, because she is feeling like, justice has not been done in her daughter's case. And it's not just about the record financial settlement that the family got in that case, not just about the police reforms that were part of that settlement, which were important, but more accountability from a criminal legal standpoint is what she continues to be focused on as well.
Midwin, let me ask you, any chance the DOJ takes up this case?
It's difficult to know that at this point. It's a brand new day at the Department of Justice. Merrick Garland is now the Attorney General. Kristen Clark, Vanita Gupta right now are still in front of the Senate and trying to become confirmed as members of the DOJ. So it's very difficult to know right now whether they will exactly do that. But it is my hope that they do, because for the past 4 years, we've had a Department of Justice that has pretty much been out to lunch with respect to these kinds of cases. And we really need the federal government to weigh in on these civil rights abuses. They play a special role. There are federal statutes that clearly have been in violation. No one can do the that they do, particularly when it comes to those consent decrees and following up on police departments and making sure that they put into place measures that police certain communities better. As we know, there are other communities that never have these problems in terms of excessive policing and excessive force. And it's important to point out that police killings of innocent Black people is not just the only problem. Excessive policing, constant surveillance are other issues as well. So the federal government plays a very good role, or a big role rather, in these kinds of cases when they step in and file lawsuits when the facts are there to do that, right? They always follow the facts and they follow the law when they do that.
So I want to stick with you, Midwin, because Daniel Cameron, Kentucky's Attorney General, is an elected position. So I think it's important to remember the role prosecutors play in these cases. But I want to shift gears and move to the Derek Chauvin trial. We now have an idea of what the jury looks like as jury selection continues. So far, it's not a very diverse jury. Based on what you know at this point, what does that say about jury selection, and what impacts will this have on potential justice in that case?
Right. You know, race plays a crucial role in this case. There's no denying it. Derek Chauvin is white. George Floyd is Black. But Hennepin County, where this happened, is only 14% Black, and he ought to be tried by a jury of his peers. The prosecutor and the defense have gone through what a lot of people are now being able to watch called voir dire, which is where they basically ask prospective jurors, potential jurors, whether or not they believe that they can be fair, whether or not they believe that they can sit through the entire trial and not form an opinion, not come to a decision until its conclusion. But what they also want to do is just make sure that anybody hasn't made up their mind right up front. And what the prosecutors and the defense attorneys use are called preemptive strikes. So they basically can strike a juror that they don't like for any reason. The defense has 15 chances, the prosecutors have 9. However, if they believe a juror has been struck for race reasons, then they can do a Batson challenge, which is basically where they are saying that, listen, you're striking this juror because they are, for race or for gender. And so far, there have been about 2 or 3, and the judge has made a determination that that juror was struck for race-neutral reasons. So it's quite interesting to see as this progresses, whether when they reach to 12 jurors, whether there will be more people of color on it. I am optimistic. I always try to be cautiously optimistic when it comes to these cases. But right now we're at 7. We still have a couple more to go, as well as 2 to 4 alternates.
All right. Well, we at the Cross Connection will certainly stay on top of this case, and certainly MSNBC will be bringing you the latest as these headlines continue to develop. So, Aaron Haynes, don't go anywhere. You'll join us in the next hour. And thank you so much, Midwin Charles, for providing your brilliant legal expertise. You have to come back more often. Coming up, the race to vaccinate all Americans. But does everyone want the shots? But even more worrisome, do they have access to them? We'll discuss that with our experts next.
Every morning, go beyond the headlines with MSNBC Daily, now featuring written perspectives from people you know and trust, enlightening you on the most important issues of our time, like systemic racism, domestic terrorism, the COVID vaccine rollout, and the sexism still pervasive in our politics. Plus, a fresh take every morning from me, Hayes Brown. Start your day with MSNBC Daily at msnbc.com.